Boring history for sleep. What did cavemen actually do all day? And more. Let's go back, way back, to a time before cities, before written words, before even farming, to a time when the world was quiet and people were few. This was the Stone Age. Imagine waking up inside a cold, dark cave. Not a house, no bed, just rock, fire, and maybe a few furs wrapped around your shoulders. This was the life of a caveman. Mornings in the Stone Age, there was no alarm clock, no emails to check, just the rising sun, and maybe the sound of birds or wolves in the distance. The first thing our ancient ancestors likely did was check that they were safe. They looked around, checked if the fire was still burning, listened for danger. Then they probably yawned, scratched their heads, and started thinking about one thing: food. Because food didn't come from a fridge. You had to find it, or starve. What did they eat? So what did cavemen actually eat? No pizza, no cookies, just what nature gave them. Berries, nuts, roots, maybe a rabbit if they were lucky. Some days they'd find honey from a wild beehive, sweet, sticky, but risky, because bees don't give honey without a fight. Meat was harder, hunting was dangerous, and it could take the whole day just to catch something small. Sometimes they didn't eat at all, a day of work. The Stone Age way now. Imagine your job is to make tools, but not with machines, with stones. They'd take a sharp rock and slowly, carefully, chip away at another rock. Over and over, they made axes, knives, and scrapers. It wasn't fast, it wasn't easy, but it was necessary. And they did it, day after day. Because without tools, survival was even harder. Fire was everything. Fire was the heart of life, not just for cooking, but for warmth, light, and safety. Starting a fire took time. They used flint, dry grass, and patience. They had to guard it. If it went out, the whole group might suffer. So at night, someone always stayed close to the fire, watching it, feeding it, in silence. What about the children? Caveman kids didn't go to school. They didn't learn math or reading, but they still learned. They watched, they copied, they followed their parents and learned how to survive. Some played with sticks, some chased bugs, some sat near the fire, listening to stories. Yes, even cavemen told stories, not written, but spoken, around the fire, under the stars. Moving from place to place, cavemen didn't live in just one place forever. When the animals moved, they followed. When the weather changed, they moved again. So life was always shifting. They carried what they could: tools, furs, baskets, and each other. Some people stayed near rivers, some lived by the sea, some wandered through forests. They slept under trees, or in caves, or in shelters made from sticks and bones. Cave art, the oldest stories, sometimes. They painted on cave walls, deer, bison, hands. Nobody knows exactly why. Maybe it was spiritual. Maybe it was to teach others. Or maybe they just liked to draw. The paint came from clay, charcoal, and crushed berries. And they painted with fingers, sticks, or even chewed up grass. Those drawings are still here today. Thousands of years later, silent voices from the past. Sleep and dreams at the end of the day. Cavemen gathered around the fire. They ate if they had food. They talked if they had stories. They slept on furs in silence. No lights, no sounds, just the wind, and maybe an owl in the distance. And they dreamed. We don't know what they dreamed about, But they probably dreamed of animals, of fire, of the sky, and of each other, just like us. More than just cavemen. The truth is, cavemen were not all the same. Some lived in Europe, some in Africa, others in Asia. Some were Neanderthals, others were Homo sapiens. They all looked a little different, but they all laughed, cried, loved, feared. They were human, just like you. Life beyond the cave. What cavemen really faced, weather and the weather, wasn't always kind. Sometimes the rain fell for days, sometimes it snowed, and there was no shelter but a cave. They didn't have umbrellas, no boots, just animal skins to keep warm. In the summer, the heat could burn their skin. In the winter, the cold could freeze their fingers. So staying alive meant watching the sky. Dangerous neighbors, cavemen, didn't live alone. They shared the world with wild beasts, huge lions with long fangs, wolves that hunted in packs, bears that could tear a man in half. And yet, they survived. They learned to track animals. They learned when to fight and when to run. Following the herds, much of their life was about animals, not just eating them, but watching them, learning their movements. Following the seasons, they learned the signs, fresh droppings, broken branches, footprints in the mud. Tracking was a skill, taught from one generation to the next, in silence, with focus. They walked for hours, sometimes days. The caveman brain. People think cavemen were dumb, but that's not true. Their brains were powerful. They learned without books. They remembered places, plants, paths, sounds. They knew which berries killed, which animals were safe, which way led home. And they passed that knowledge on, not with writing, but with words and with time. Part 3. Myths, Magic, and Meaning. Did cavemen believe in gods? We don't know for sure, but when they saw the stars, heard thunder in the sky, watched people die, they must have wondered, why? What's beyond the firelight? Where do we go when we sleep forever? So they made stories about spirits, about beasts that lived in shadows, about ancestors watching from the stars. And those stories gave them comfort, just like stories do today. Rituals and rites. Some skeletons were found with flowers beside them, buried with care. That means cavemen honored their dead. Maybe they sang songs. Maybe they prayed. Maybe they cried. Because even then, death hurt and love was real. Music and sound. They didn't have guitars or drums, but they had rhythm. Some bones had holes in them, like flutes. Some stones made musical sounds when hit. So maybe, around the fire, they made music, slow, simple, beautiful. A lullaby for the Stone Age. Cycles of life. Their life wasn't full of change. It was slow, predictable, peaceful in its own way. Wake, search, eat, make, sleep, again and again, until winter ended, or danger came, and that rhythm was the heartbeat. Living in groups, cavemen didn't live alone. They lived in small tribes or families, usually 10 to 20 people, sometimes more. They shared food, shared stories, protected each other from danger. They survived together. When one person hunted, another stayed with the children. When one got sick, others helped. No one lived alone for long, because, in the wild, being alone meant death. Even though life was short, maybe 30 or 40 years, some people lived longer, and these people became elders. They were respected, listened to. They knew where the rivers were, where the best caves were, which plants healed, and which ones poisoned. The tribe survived because the elders remembered was their love. Yes, even in the Stone Age, people loved each other. We find skeletons buried hand in hand. Some were buried with small carved objects, perhaps symbols of love or memories. They likely had partnerships, couples, parents, even heartbreak, because the human heart has always been the same. Birth and death, giving birth, wasn't easy. It was painful, risky. But when a new baby came, it was hope, a chance to keep going. And when someone died, the tribe mourned. Some were buried, some left in caves, some painted on the walls. Each life mattered, even then, winding down. We've walked through the firelit paths of ancient life. We've hunted beside them, slept beside them, and now we rest beside them. The world of cavemen was hard, but it was full of meaning, of connection, of quiet moments under the stars. So let your eyes close, let your mind return to the cave, to the warmth of fire, to the safety of your group, and to the rhythm of the earth. Sleep well, ancient dreamer.